Hi, my name is Ian Waddell, and this is my Python project final presentation. I don't know, with the class being online only during the corona pandemic, if we are even supposed to be doing this. However, it is still in the project specifications, so I've decided to go ahead and make it. And if we don't need to, hopefully it will get me a little extra credit. I think I'd rather, I'm right at a low A. I think or a high B. I want to get an A. For this, we're going to start with the GUI, which just means we start it. In this case, I have a rock, paper, scissors fantasy style. If you click attack and the computer, this does block, which is decided on a randomized number between 1, 2, and 3, then if I attack a blocker, I'll get hurt from the impact. Let's see if we can get through all 3 of them. In this case, the computer rolled a 3. He chose to do magic, and since I'm attacking, I do damage and stop them from casting. If the computer does A1, you're both attacking, your swords collide, which negates both damage. So let's do block. In this case, the computer rolled a 1 to do attack. I blocked, so I do damage to him from the impact. If you both block, nothing happens. If you block and your opponent casts magic, you can't cast magic, so you still take damage. So that luckily goes through all 3. Now, if you use magic and he attacks, he can stop you from casting and do damage. If he tries to block and you do magic, he can't block magic, so you do damage. And let's try to get this one. Now, if both of you use magic, there's a large explosion which negates the damage, and nobody takes damage. Now, I'm going to open up this, and that is the GUI component. The next step is the multiple functions. I had to do quite a few functions to handle all of the button pressing and checks and output and write to files, as well as a few inline functions, which I will bring up later. Unit testing. So for this, I have a class just called game class. It has the class for the person, the player, or the computer. Now to test it, I have just simply done inserting the values and then making sure that they are properly being assigned and outputting properly. I will go ahead and run this. And as you can see, it says ran to test, both okay. Here I'll go to exception handling. This one I had more difficulty on finding on where to put it, but I simply just did this. If you look at the GUI at the bottom left, you will see this. Print Y, put Y for print file. So if I put Y and I go through and finish the game, it will okay it and send it out. However, if you put just lower Y, it will error and say that you need to put a capitalized. It's a very simple check just to add in, making sure people don't forget to hold shift when they pressed Y. The next one is user input, which is the Y, and then output. There's quite a bit of output. There's output through files, which you can see here, as well as the player stats and the computer stats. And then as the game goes on, it breaks it down by turn and health for both player and computer. And a class, which we have covered using the game class that I mentioned about the testing. Now for this, we need to include 9 different aspects. We have the if-else, which was used quite a bit. For every button that needed to be pressed, there was just 3 if statements. As well as if the Y was put there, then it would print out the files. Looping. For looping, I did a simple printing the files, just a for loop for each item in a list it would print off. File IO, which I just mentioned, we do print to a file, which is these text files I'm showing currently. We have a list a dictionary, and an array. For this, we have an array, here is a list, and here's a dictionary. Every time a button is pressed, it goes through the options and then will label. If a player decides to attack, then it will say a player chose to attack. Now, depending on what the computer chooses, if he chooses to attack, it'll say player chose attack, computer chose attack. And doing that will put it into the array, list, and dictionary, and that's how I keep track of what happened. Now, normally you would only use one, however, we needed to show that we could use all three, so that's what I used. Then I used date time. For this, I did a simple when you start, it goes through, it takes your date, end time, and then when you finish, and it's the moment when a player or computer hits 0, then it will output that. Now, if you scroll down here, this is the line. If you continue to click, it will still tell you. Now, we have the module or package. In this case, we do have a package. I've just labeled it game. You have the initializer for the package, which has very little in it, just the imports. You have the class test. You have the project main tester driver. You have the game class, and then you have the files. This is my final presentation. I did enjoy doing this. It was a simple rock, paper, scissors fantasy, which was kind of fun to go through and decide what I wanted. But it still kept me in a structure, so I knew what the end goal was, which helped me work on it. I have enjoyed the class, and thank you so much for teaching me Python.